Welcome in, guys. Another edition of Right on Rangers Live. It is a much better day today when it comes to Rangers baseball. Good bounce back win tonight. Hope all of y'all are having a great day so far. Rangers get the job done. 6-2 final score. Never really a doubt in this game at all, which after last night was nice. Again, 6-2 Rangers final score. We'll break down all of the different box scores, and we'll break down a lot of different questions and things that have been popping up over the last couple of days. Rangers news, topics, hot topics, and we'll also be doing a little Q&A as well, looking at some of the comments, all that good stuff. So looking forward to this, especially always better doing this after a W. And by the way, 2,100 W's for Bruce Bochy. Pretty impressive. 2,100 wins as a manager. That's pretty crazy. To think about how many games there are, 162 in a season, and he's won 2,100 total games as a manager. Pretty wild. I think he is for sure going to be one of those first ballot Hall of Famer guys. I'm not sure how it works 100% with coaches, with the voting and everything. I assume so, but I mean, you're talking about a guy that's won 4 championships, 2,100 wins. I think people are going to start talking about him as potentially one of, if not the best baseball coach of all time, if he keeps doing this, especially if the Rangers were to get another World Series, which I know is a long way off at this point. Not trying by any means to jump to that conclusion. But that being said, Bruce Bochy wins another World Series with the Rangers. I think he's 100% in that category of best baseball coach of all time. I think that he has had an incredible career. Not many coaches have won World Series with different teams. There's not a lot of coaches that have won 2,100 plus games. And who knows how much longer Boch is going to do this. I don't think he's really let on too much. I think it's probably a little bit season by season if I had to guess. But that being said, if he were to go 2-3 more years, keep racking up the wins, maybe the World Series rings, who knows? He's absolutely, in my mind, a top 5 coach of all time. I think just from what you hear from players, from other coaches, but also the on-field accomplishments, the rings, the 2,100 victories. I think he's got a good mix of both. He's got coaches and players backing him up as being one of the greatest. And then you've also got the hardware. You've got the stats to prove it. Bruce Bochy, 2,100 wins tonight with the Rangers beating the A's 6-2. Huge accomplishment. Again, think he's probably going to go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest coach of all time. I thought that was such a big move for the Rangers when they got Bruce Bochy a couple of years back. They were really lacking, I thought, just that savvy veteran coach that had been there before. I know that the movement when we had Woody, and I liked Woody by and large. I think he's a great guy. I think it's a tough spot for him being a brand new manager. I don't think Woody had done a lot of managing head coach experience before he got thrust into the Rangers role. It's a tough spot. I hope that he can catch on at another point. You really didn't see the Rangers making a lot of big swings. I know we had obviously the Seager-Semien year, but even when Seager and Semien signed for the very first time, Woody really, I don't think, had a complete squad like Bochy did last year. So Bochy came into, I think, a little bit of a better situation than Woody did. Hopefully Woody will catch back on. But back to Bochy, just getting a manager like him, Chris Young making that move, which is such a huge thing for this franchise. And I've said this many times over the course of the last season, having an amazing Hall of Fame coach at the helm is a difference maker. You kind of have seen the trend of let's just throw a young guy in there that can communicate well with the fans, and let's just see how it goes. With the players, and let's just see how it goes. Right? We can pass the analytics through him. He can relate well, and it kind of was devaluing the old school coach a little bit. I feel like there was a little period of time where that was really prevalent, where some of the old school guys were kind of getting a little bit pushed out. And still, in some ways, I think that is happening. But I was really glad to see the Rangers go for Bruce Bochy, a guy who's been there before with a lot of experience, a guy that knows how to win. So I'm so happy for him getting that win, number 2,100. Hopefully, many more to come. Hopefully, another ring to come at the end of this season. Bruce Bochy, 2,100 wins. Rangers win 6-2 tonight. Couple of big questions. I actually saw this article. I'm going to see if I can post it in a couple of the chats if possible. I'll try my luck at this. But here's the title of the article. Title of the article is, Could Rangers' Adolis Garcia be regressing back to his former self? And this is from a website called Nolan Wrighton that covers the Rangers. And I really do like this website and a lot of the articles that come out of it. So by no means am I trying to trash the website. I actually think it's a great source for Rangers news, so I love it. But it was just kind of ironic that this article came out right before the game. I mean, literally right before the game, this article comes out, and then Garcia goes on to have the night that he had tonight, which, if you didn't catch it, Dolly had, 3 hits tonight, drove in quite a few runs. I mean, it was absolutely a great night for him. I think he got lucky on one of his hits, but he also smoked a couple of baseballs as well. In the 7th inning, a double to left field, 107 miles an hour exit velocity. Looks like another time earlier on in the game, he also came through with a nice hit too. Had that bloop single, looks like in the 4th inning when the Rangers scored some runs there. Simeon had a big knock, big double, 100 miles an hour off the bat. That kind of started to open things up for the Rangers. But Dolly looked great tonight. He really did. And he went 3 for 3 with 2 RBI, a walk. So wasn't retired tonight at all. No strikeouts. It was a great night for him. And I think, to be honest, if I'm just being real, I think some of the concerns that were in this article that I posted in as many of the chats as I could, I think a couple of the points are well taken. Dolly so far on the season has struck out quite a bit more than what he has in the past. I think he really took a big step forward, and he was having a lot more patience at the plate. He was walking more. And this year, I think he started off a little impatient. I think he's only walked maybe 2, I think 3 times now with the walk tonight. And when Dolly was at his best last year, just had a super patient eye. He was taking those walks, and he was just a really tough guy to get out. Even if he wasn't going to get a base hit, a home run, an extra base hit, you knew you were going to get a quality at bat out of him most times. And the article just goes on to say that this year so far, that same eye doesn't seem to have been there. But again, kind of ironic considering Dolly goes 3 for 3 tonight with a walk, 2 RBI. Great night for Dolly. They need him to be hitting well. If you don't have Dolly hitting like he did tonight, you're missing Josh Young. You've got a couple injuries on the team. Seager isn't quite at 100% yet. He's still coming back from that hernia surgery that he had right at the beginning of spring training. So you don't have the Rangers lineup at full strength at this moment. You need Garcia to be the Garcia that we got late last year and then into October. So nights like tonight, I mean, look, you got to take it with a grain of salt. You're facing the Oakland A's, a team that really probably in terms of talent is pretty much at the bottom of the totem pole in MLB. And that's just the way that the ownership and the front office there has constructed the squad. They've got some decent players, obviously Langoliers. They've got J.D. Davis, who I think is a pretty solid, serviceable player. They've got some good guys on that team, but by and large, you kind of have to take some of these stats with a grain of salt, playing what I believe is the worst team in baseball. I know that right now they're 4-8, and there are teams in the standings that are worse off than the A's at the moment. But I think collectively as a whole, you're talking about talent. I think the A's are bottom of the barrel at this point. So I take everything that goes on today and tomorrow against the A's with a little bit of a grain of salt. But the reality is those are all big league players, and you have to produce. And clearly on any given night, you can lose even to bad teams. That is kind of the beauty of baseball, isn't it? you can have the big favorites, but at the same time, nobody's really out of it. And you can win a game on any given night. That is the beauty of baseball, and I think a big reason why I've continued to love it since I was young. Any team can knock off the favorite, right? It just happens that way. Some days the bats go cold. You get a really excellent pitching performance from a guy that's overperforming, and you get a win, even if it's against a team like the Dodgers, Braves, Rangers. That's the beauty of baseball. So I'm glad to see Dolly coming through with the big game today. And we're going to go down the box score here, talk about each player individually. I've got some notes that I'll add in here and there. As we know, the box score doesn't always tell the whole story. So let's just kind of go up and down, and then I'll interject. We'll do the hitters first. We'll do the pitchers second. And then I've got some big questions that I'm going to pose and chat about, and you can feel free to chime in too in the comments as I ask those. But let's go through the box score. So Simi, big night tonight for him, 2 for 4. He actually has really great numbers against Stripling, who was the starter tonight. So I wasn't surprised to see Simi looking good tonight against Stripling, and he seems to play well against his former team, the Oakland A's. You remember Simi was with the A's for a while. Always was just kind of one of those hard-nosed players that would play great against the Rangers. Then he went to the Blue Jays. Then we signed him a few years back. I'm glad Simi's on our team. He was always kind of a thorn in the Rangers' side. So good to see him working for us now, beating up on his former team. So Simi goes 2 for 4 with a run scored, with an RBI as well. Came through with a huge double in the 4th inning, 100 miles an hour off the bat. Thought maybe it had a chance to go out, fell a little bit short, but hitting to one of the bigger parts of the ballpark. When Simi is hitting 2 for 4 each night at the top of the order, Rangers are going to be hard to beat. When Simeon is hot, the Rangers just don't lose very often. And even when he's not, they can still win games, clearly. But when Simeon is putting in a 2 for 4 performance, I'm very surprised when the Rangers don't get the job done. Seager goes 0 for 3 with a run scored. He had a walk and a strikeout as well. So a little bit of a quiet night from Seager. That's going to happen. Seager not at 100% quite yet. You know, hopefully he'll continue to get better, heal up from that hernia surgery that kept him out for all of spring training. A little bit of a slow start, Corey Seager standards. Look, he's hitting 340. So I know I'm being a little bit picky, maybe on surface level, but only 1 home run so far, and we're 12 games in. I would probably expect a little more pop from him at this point, but when you factor in the injury, recovering from that, might just take him a second to get going. But not going to shock me if by May, when May rolls around, that hernia surgery and the recovery time, all of that's passed a little bit. Wouldn't shock me to see Sieg start heating up as the temperature heats up and we get into those dog days of summer into May, June, July. I think Sieg is going to turn it on, but a little slow moving at the beginning here. Going back to the box score, let's keep on rolling down the list. Evan Carter hitting in the 3 spot tonight. Wyatt Langford gets the night off, and I think maybe that'll be a good reset for him, although he's been getting some hits recently as well. I don't think he was in a slump or anything like that, but just a good off day for the rookie. So Evan Carter takes over the 3 spot, goes 1 for 4 with a run. Surprised when you don't see that 1 or 2 in the walk column for Evan Carter with the eye that he has, but still hitting below that Mendoza line, 189 average for Evan Carter, but I think you're always going to get quality at bats from him 9 times out of 10. And I like Evan Carter in that 3 spot. After all, it is what was working when we won the World Series. Evan Carter in that 3 spot. Nothing against Wyatt Langford by any means. I think he's going to be an amazing player, but I just like Evan Carter in that 3 spot. Just something about it, right between Garcia and Seager. I just think that's a good place for him because you know if you pitch around Seager that Carter is not going to give away an at-bat. You know that he's going to be patient. He's going to wait for his pitch, and he's not going to be up there just swinging at anything, swinging out of his shoes. So having a guy like Carter with great vision at the plate that's going to take pitches and wait on the right pitch, that's the kind of guy you want protecting Seager. And Evan Carter's only going to get better as a hitter as time goes on. So I like seeing him back in that 3 spot. We talked about Dolly already, 3 for 3 tonight with a walk. Wasn't retired at all tonight, 2 RBI. And Josh Smith, 1 for 4, runs scored in an RBI, hitting 333 on the season. That guy just continues to get runs in and to be productive. He really does. I am impressed with what I've seen from him so far. I know he had the error in the first inning on the double play. So I got to admit, in the first inning, after that loss last night, and then Smith throws the ball away trying to turn 2 to Simeon, a part of me was like, oh boy, please tell me this isn't going to be a long night. But Josh Smith, to his credit, comes back up in the bottom of the first, right after making that error, and drives in a run. Hit a ball real hard to right field, 104-mile-an-hour exit velocity, solid line drive. Always love to see that, right? A player making a big error that ended up costing the Rangers a run, right? Oakland A's actually drew first blood in this game, but then Josh Smith comes back up after the throwing error in the bottom of the first, and he atones for it, gets that run right back. Always love seeing that. And Josh Smith is continuing to do a great job in Josh Young's absence. Can't replace Josh Young totally, and Josh Young just has such an amazing glove down there at third base. I think Josh Smith is filling in admirably, both with the bat and the glove, but you're occasionally going to have stuff like this happen with Josh Smith. Probably going to boot the ball a couple of times more than Josh Young would. Same thing with throwing. So, look, I think when you consider everything, the Rangers are probably very pleased and very, very happy with what they're getting from Josh Smith right now. I don't think they're complaining. We get a little bit picky on here sometimes, but I don't think that the Rangers are complaining about what they're getting from Josh Smith. Aaron, I do agree with you. Hope I'm getting that right, buddy, but I do agree. I'm going to show this comment up here. The team fielding, it isn't like what it was perfectly from last year. Will it get there? I'd like to think so. I think the Rangers coaching staff in general has put a really big emphasis on fielding and on defense, and you see how it paid off. The Rangers defense was a big part of the reason why they won a World Series last year. So I would agree that the defense is not as sharp as what you think about when you think Rangers World Series champions, but at the same time, missing a couple of guys, right? Missing Josh Young. He's obviously a Gold Glove caliber third baseman, 100%. So I really feel like Josh Smith is doing an adequate job. Don't like seeing him throw a ball away like that, but at the same time, it's going to happen. Josh Smith, I know that he's got a good arm down there, and he's a decent fielder. Yeah, I think he's a decent player, but there's going to be a little bit of a drop-off. But as long as he's hitting 333 and driving in runs each night, it's hard to complain. And like I said, I don't think the front office or the coaching staff is going to be displeased with what they're getting so far from him. Let's keep going. So we talked Josh Smith. Jonah Heim, 2 for 4 tonight with 2 RBI. Had a nice opposite field single. Had a lucky blue pit as well, but a really nice opposite field single that I saw from him earlier in the game to drive in a run. 100 miles an hour off the bat to left field. That plated 2 runs. That was big in the first inning, just to really kind of create a little bit of separation. I think it was 1-1 at that point. Heim comes up, drives in 2, and now you've got some cushion. So, look, I said at the very beginning of the year, the Rangers really didn't need Jonah Heim to be the all-star guy that he was last year, driving in 95 total runs. I mean, Jonah Heim has the most RBI. I don't know if you guys know this or not. I saw this stat. Most RBI among any catchers in Major League Baseball since the start of the 2023 season last year. Jonah Heim, most RBI, talking about catchers, in baseball since the start of the 2023 season. So clearly the dude can swing the bat, but the Rangers really didn't need him to be that this year with who they had, with Langford coming up, with Carter's emergence. Of course, you've got Simi, Seager, and then you had Doley turning into the dominant player that he became in the postseason. You kind of were looking around and you were saying to yourself, okay, we just need Heim to go 1 for 4, maybe get a couple of hits every few games, but you just needed Heim to kind of be a steady guy in the bottom of that lineup. And I think with Josh Young out, it's nice to see him producing. He's had a couple of good games in a row. If his back can get going, I thought he had a home run the other night, had 2 hits tonight. They could really use Jonah Heim stepping up, being that 95 RBI guy that he was last year. When Josh Young gets back, and if he's hitting his stride, assuming that happens around the All-Star break or after, the pressure comes off a little bit. But if Jonah Heim can step up, have nights like he did tonight, that would be very ideal, very helpful for the Rangers while they're getting back to full health. Walsh goes 0 for 2 with 2 walks, so down to 289 average. He was up in the mid-3s, high 3s for a while, but on-base percentage still there for him. He had a few good at-bats, 6-pitch walk in the 4th inning. So he continues to see the ball well, in my opinion. And we'll see what happens. I know Nate Lowe is continuing to get closer and closer. I know he's going out probably on a rehab assignment pretty soon. At least this is what I heard the last time I looked into it, a day, maybe 2 days ago. So we'll see what they do when Nate Lowe comes back. I can only assume they're going to want him out there. He's got a Gold Glove at first base, and he is obviously a great clubhouse guy and a guy that a lot of teammates like playing with. Look, that doesn't lead to playing time per se, but I think Nate Lowe has done enough on the field to get a shot to earn that job back. Will they spell him occasionally with Walsh, depending on the numbers and the matchups? I think time's going to tell on that one. But I think Nate Lowe is going to get a chance to get his job back. I think Walsh has impressed so far. I don't know if it's a big enough impression for there to be any controversy at this point, but I could be wrong. I do think that Jared Walsh has made some very positive contributions, shown that he is much improved from, I would say, last year with the Angels. He had that one season where he, I think, hit 29 homers, and then he kind of fell off a cliff after that. But I think this season he's shown that he's much improved, hit the ball well in spring training, and he's done a nice job as Nate Lowe is on the IL. But when Nate Lowe comes back, I'll be interested to see how much they play the two. Obviously, they're both lefties, so it's not like Walsh is a right-handed hitter, and when there's a lefty up, you can put Walsh in, and when there's a righty up, you can put Lowe in. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, I think, in that regard. But I think they'll still give Walsh some chances, maybe some DH opportunities. We'll see what happens. Almost finished with the hitters, and then we'll talk pitching. Jankowski goes 1 for 4, hitting .364 on the year. Granted, he doesn't have a lot of at-bats, but, man, I just like Jankowski. I really wish that they would try and give him a little bit more playing time than what he's got. I know he's kind of doing this, semi-platoon with Leote, and, he was DHing tonight for Langford, hitting at the bottom of the order, but I just like him. He's just kind of a hard-nosed ball player, does the little things right, which I love. You see him laying down a bunt today, getting on base. I just think he is just your quintessential bottom-of-the-order guy, plays a good outfield, right? He runs around out there great. He's made a couple of nice catches this year. So I struggle to see the concern with getting him at bats every other game. I could totally see platooning Leote and platooning Jankowski. And I mentioned to you guys, Leote much better last year against lefty starters than righty starters. So I think it totally makes sense. Jankowski plays against righties and Leote plays against lefties. And considering the night that Leote had tonight, I think that is absolutely something that the Rangers need to consider. Do I think they're going to make a drastic move with Leote anytime soon? Probably not. I think that Leote's got a nice leash, and I think I've said pretty consistently, I think they're going to give him through the month of April to make that difference. Just my 2 cents on that one. But I think Leote has got to get better at doing the little things right. Tonight was very frustrating because you had Jankowski lay down that nice bunt. I want to say, and I'm looking at my notes real quick here. It's not significant. It was Jankowski laying down that bunt that I just talked about, and there's runners on first and second. There's no outs, and Leote is asked to bunt to get the runners to second and third, and then, of course, the lineup turns over for Simeon. And that's such an ideal situation because if that bunt is executed, then you've got second and third with one out for Simeon. Now you can put Simeon on, but then Seager comes up with the bases loaded. So playing small ball and doing those little things, it's so huge. It totally changes the complexion of that inning. If Leote can get the bunt down, get runners to second and third, one out with Simeon up, you eliminate the double play. So Simeon can make an out, and you're still going to get Seager. And then if they want to walk Seager with two outs to first, then you got Evan Carter bases loaded, which you'll also take. Leote at the bottom of the order has to do a better job with the little things. He had a base running mistake tonight, got picked off, and that's embarrassing. I mean, Leote cannot be getting picked off. He's a guy that I've said is in my mind, kind of on the fringe. You cannot be making base running errors. You cannot be not executing bunts. You're a bottom of the order dude. You have got to be able to get your bunts down. That's why I'm saying Jankowski to me is a guy that's worthy of playing time. It's pretty rare that I've made note that he didn't do the little things right. And the little things for me are things like, to get a little bit more specific, you've got a runner on second base and you've got less than two outs. Get the runner over, if not drive him home. Runner on second base, less than two outs. At least get them to third or drive them in, right? Have a productive out or get an RBI. Leote tonight, he's showing that he's not consistent enough in those areas, and I think that's really concerning. You need him to be good with bunting. You need him to be good with base running. In my mind, those things are what you would say to convince yourself that you need to keep him in the lineup. Otherwise, you're not getting pop out of him. He's not a home run guy. He can hit the ball hard at times, and he's done that a little bit this season. But for me, to justify Leote playing every day, I think you got to say to yourself, he plays a great center field, which I think for the most part he has this year. And you got to say to yourself, he's a hard-nosed ball player that does the little things right. I don't think I can say that so far about Leote. At least the multiple times that I can think of where he's been asked to bunt, he's failed both times. You're a major league ball player, and you know that they're talking to him, dude, you're going to be at the bottom of the order. You're going to be our table setter for Simi, for Seager, get on base, set the table for those guys, and we turn over the order, the lineup. You know that you're going to be at the bottom of the order. You know they're going to ask you to bunt occasionally. You got to be good at doing those little things. If you're a player like Leote, you've got speed, right? You've got some intangibles there, but you've got to be able to execute the little things. Now, let's look at the pitching. So we had four pitchers tonight: Bradford, Rodriguez, Robertson, who pitched in his 800th game tonight. Another milestone. We had Bochy, 2,100 wins tonight. That is crazy impressive. But Robertson, 800 games. That's impressive too. I mean, guys do not always last this long in the big leagues. But Robertson, I think he came into the league in 2008, and he has made it all the way to 2024. That's impressive. 16 years in the big leagues. That is very, very impressive for a relief pitcher. Crazy. Let me talk a little bit about Bradford, who pitched another great game. I think he had a lot of things going for him tonight. He got a lot of swings and misses. He's a guy that I really have enjoyed watching pitch because in my mind, and I know this sounds like very obvious, but he is what I would call an actual pitcher. There's a lot of guys today that are just throwers up there on the mound. They throw really hard. I think Bradford is a pitcher's pitcher. What I mean by that is he locates his spots. He mixes his pitches well. Obviously, you got Jonah Heim, Gold Glover behind, calling pitches for you, making a difference that way. But Bradford locates his pitches and mixes up speeds. That's what good pitchers do. In MLB today, you have, I think, a pretty solid mix of throwers and pitchers. Throwers are up there just throwing gas. 100 miles an hour, 99, 101, 102. They don't have great control, but if they get the ball close to the strike zone, they can blow it by you because they got 102 in their back pocket. But can they locate 102? No, I don't think There's a lot of guys that are great at locating 102, 101, 100. There are definitely some guys that can, and those guys are some of the most dominant players in baseball. But a lot of guys just throw hard and they can get it past guys. But Bradford is a real deal pitcher, and I've loved to see him succeed. 3 straight quality starts from him. And I think a fair question to ask, which one of my buddies asked in the last live, was, has he solidified himself in the rotation? It's early, and you got to take this game with a grain of salt. It is the A's we're talking about. Not trying to hate on the A's, but we just got to be real. We all know what the A's are doing. They're not investing in the team. They don't have a lot of talent on the team. It is what it is. So you got to take some of these stats and numbers. You can't overblow this series with the A's like it gives you all the answers. But look, Bradford's pitching well right now, whether it's against the A's or not. I think he is starting to solidify himself in that rotation. It's not going to shock me if the Rangers, even when guys come back healthy. So think about Scherzer, who's going to be probably coming back first. Think about Molly, DeGrom. They're coming back at different times, right? But Bradford, I think, is probably going to be a part of maybe a 6-man rotation. I could see the Rangers going to that 6-man. You got the dog days of summer coming up. It's not going to shock me if they add in another guy into that starting rotation just to give guys a break, especially guys coming off of major injuries. Max, DeGrom, obviously with Tommy John, and then Molly with his injury as well. It's not going to surprise me if they want to add in a 6th starter just to make sure that everybody's well rested. And then when you get into the playoffs, things shrink down a little bit. You're not going to have 6 starters. You're going to have 3 or 4 guys, probably 4. But I think that Bradford absolutely could be that 5th or 6th guy for you, especially in July and August when that season is getting long, man. So I hope he continues to pitch well. I really love watching him pitch. He had some big moments for us in the postseason last year in relief. So to see him come along as a starter, very, very pleased with what I've seen from Cody Bradford. And the team seems to play really well behind him. I know Smith had the error, but it just seems like team's got a lot of confidence with him. They swing the bats pretty well, give him some run support, at least 3, 4+ runs, and that's really all he's needed. So Bradford, probably one of the players of the game tonight, I would say. Garcia is probably tops. Simi maybe right behind. Garcia probably, I would say more so than Simi for sure. But Bradford, one of the stars of the game, absolutely. Rodriguez is killing me. Rodriguez came in, of course, after Bradford comes out. And look, it was a 5-run game, so I'm sure that the Rangers, that Bochy and Maddox are thinking, okay, we don't need to burn one of our high-leverage guys here. It's a 5-run game. Let's see if we can get Rodriguez in there and maybe help him right the ship. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that Rodriguez has not had a game where he's given up a home run. At least it doesn't feel like it. Feels like every game Rodriguez comes in, a home run happens pretty immediately after he comes in. I mean, look, I've got nothing personal against him. It just seems like he just cannot go a single game without giving up a bomb. He got out of the jam in the 7th, when I think it was when Bradford came out. He got in the 7th, but at the same time, comes in top of I think it was the 6th, actually. Maybe it was the 7th, whatever. Comes in very next inning, continues on, and gives up a home run promptly. And then multiple base runners as well. Rangers had to go to the bullpen, bring in Robertson. It's kind of like Leclerc. You just can't have a clean inning. Can't have a clean inning. Allergic to it at this point. That's how I feel about Leclerc. Just dude refuses to have a clean inning. I would really like to see some of these relievers go 1, 2, 3. Some of them can. Yates is a big 1, 2, 3 guy. But some of these Rangers relievers just cannot operate without base runners. Yes, I read the chat, by the way. I'm looking at a couple of YouTube comments, but I can't stop when I get on a roll all the time. But I will do chat and comments at the very end. Don't worry. So, continuing. Lastly, we had, looks like Lats come in. I know we talked about Robertson. He got the one out to get out of the jam that Rodriguez created. Lats comes in, gives up a hit, strikes somebody out. I like what I've seen from Lats so far. Throws it upper 90s, lefty. That could be useful. You get into the postseason, you need a lefty guy that can throw some gas. We had that in Chapman last year, although Chapman gave me a heart attack most of the time that he came in. I think most Rangers fans can agree. I can't say I miss Chap. I mean, he went with the money. I don't even think the Rangers wanted to bring him back. I didn't hear a lot of chatter, at least. I don't know if somebody did, correct me, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of chatter bringing Chap back. So I can't say I miss him. It was nice when he was on throwing 102, 103, but I don't miss Chap. He would give me, like Leclerc, just give me that acid reflux, right? That heartburn every time he came in. It's just like you never know what you're going to get. And that's exactly what it is for Leclerc right now, who, by the way, I think this video is kind of making the rounds on YouTube. But Dude Perfect went to Rangers spring training. I don't know if you guys saw this video, but Dude Perfect went to Rangers spring training, and Ty, who's pretty much like the main guy for Dude Perfect, they do just a bunch of like cool stunts, challenges. Awesome follow, by the way. I love those guys. They're Texas A&M fans, but I'll forgive them. Longhorns fan, if you couldn't tell. But let's not get into that yet. It's not football season quite yet. But Dude Perfect, love those guys. And Ty actually like went through a series of challenges. Like he hit off a little leaguer, then he graduated and hit off a high school pitcher, preparing to face Jose Leclerc in spring training. And so I think he went to TCU, hit off one of their pitchers, and he actually did make contact. The TCU guy was throwing like 92, 93 miles an hour. Again, watch the video. It's a great video. I loved it. Just watched it this afternoon. But then he goes to spring training and he faces Leclerc, and they gave him 2 at-bats. First at-bat, struck out. But second at-bat, he actually made contact with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. And this guy played high school baseball, Ty from Dude Perfect, but hadn't swung a bat, hadn't hit off live pitching. And he said, well, I'll take him at his word. I don't know why he'd be lying, but he said since high school, it'd been like 17 years. I think he's in his mid-30s, so it's been 17 years since he faced live pitching, but he got a hit off of Jose Leclerc on a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. I mean, I don't think anything was rigged in that. I really don't. I watched it, rewatched it a couple of times, but I'm like thinking to myself, did Ty from Dude Perfect break Jose Leclerc? Like, seriously, if Leclerc is giving up hits to dudes that haven't played baseball in 17 years, like, what is going on? Maybe it was just lucky. Look, everybody gets lucky. Baseball's like that sometimes. You know, it could happen. But I'm just saying, dude that hasn't played in 17 years, Ty from Dude Perfect, gets a knockoff of Jose Leclerc on a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Wow. I don't know. I'm a little worried about Leclerc. After seeing that video, that did not help any of my concerns, I got to tell you. Now, a couple other things. Let's get into some questions, some Q&A. If you guys have any, you can fire them in, or just general comments about the Rangers, about the season, about the games. I'm happy to highlight some of the comments and talk about them, but I've written down a few that I'm going to post to you guys as well. We talked about Bradford. We talked about Garcia. We talked about Leote. One of the things that I was kind of interested in, which actually I want to get back to this, Lorenzen. So Lorenzen pitched his final rehab start. I could see Anderson going back down. In fact, I think that's probably going to happen. I kind of wonder, though, man. Lorenzen, I think, had a pretty rough game today. If I'm not mistaken, I looked at it right before the Rangers game, and I think he gave up like 11 base runners in like 4 2/3 tonight. Now, look, I know when you're on rehab starts, you're working on things kind of like spring training. You're not like necessarily doing everything that you would normally do in a game, right? You're in a real game, that is. You're kind of playing around with pitches. You're trying to see what works. You're trying to improve on maybe a pitch that you feel a little bit weaker in. But to see him give up 11 base runners in 4 2/3, a little concerning, but I'm sure that they'll give him a shot in the rotation. As I said, with all these injuries, it's a long season. They've got to make sure that they keep these guys rested. Don't want to blow anybody's arm out. I know there's already a crazy rash of pitching injuries as it is. So I think Lorenzen is clearly going to get a shot in the big leagues. That's always kind of been the plan. But I did see that stat, and I saw that, he gave up that many base runners. Little concerned. So with that being said, hopefully he will get back on track once he gets up to the big leagues and is locked in. The full arsenal is there. He's got Heim calling pitches for him. Hope to see it. So Lorenzen, we'll see probably, if I'm doing the math, don't know if he's going to be starting in the Houston series. If he pitched tonight, that would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days. So probably going to be pitching in the series after Houston. That would be my best guess on Lorenzen. But interested to see him. He's had some decent seasons. He struggled a little bit. And Lorenzen actually was a two-way player for a long time. At the first few years of his career, I think he was a two-way player. That was kind of when Ohtani was coming up. But then ultimately just went to the pitcher only. And I think since he's done that, hasn't been awesome, but he's got some good intangibles, and I think the Rangers saw that in him, and hopefully they can manage that and work it in their favor. So we'll see. Lorenzen probably going to get a start early next week, if I had to guess. So that is kind of the minor league update. Nate Lowe, we already talked about him probably going out on a rehab assignment soon. So we'll be monitoring, seeing how Nate Lowe is doing. That's going to be the plan. And we'll see if he just slides back into the lineup, everyday guy. We'll see if Walsh starts to spell him a little bit. But with that, let's look at the game tomorrow. So Sears is pitching for the A's. And looks like for the Rangers, there's a couple of guys that have quite a few at-bats against him. Sears is a lefty, by the way. Doley batting $154 off of him in 13 at-bats. Don't like to see that. Zeke Duran, 7 at-bats, hitting .571. There you go. Heim has 10 at-bats, hitting .300. Everybody else, nothing real notable. Siegs looks like 2 for 8 against him. Simeon, 214 average and 14 at-bats. So look, Duran jumps off the page. Heim jumps off the page. Everybody else, a little bit of a mixed bag. On the A's side, for hitters, we've got John Gray going, by the way. And John Gray, I would really like to see a good start from him. Would really like to see a good start from John Gray because he hasn't looked good so far. So I would really like to make sure that he is having a good game, first of all, beyond anything else. I want to see if John Gray can pitch us a good game. That's the number one thing I'm looking for tomorrow night. I want to see if John Gray can steady that ship because he's not looked good in his first 2 games. And I know that he's hard on himself. They were kind of talking about his work ethic and his mentality. I'm sure that he's working hard to get back on track, but I would really like to see John Gray get to where he was in the postseason last year. In the postseason last year, he looked outstanding as a reliever. And I don't want to think that that's where he needs to go. But I think that with the Rangers surplus and starting pitching that's going to start happening towards the middle of the season, John Gray might have to go to the bullpen if he is not cutting it as a starter. He's got good stuff. Don't know, and I haven't really done any kind of deep dive into, the why John Gray thinks things haven't gone well so far, or what the pitching staff has said. It's probably just the basic things, location and missing your spots and stuff like that, right? Walking guys. Those things are true for John Gray. But I would like to see him turn it around tomorrow. It's a great opponent to do it against the A's. If John Gray has a rough start against the A's, I try not to be too overreactive or dramatic, but I'm going to be concerned. If John Gray cannot come through against the A's tomorrow, I think that, the red flags start to pop up a little bit. Like, what's wrong with him? what needs to get tweaked. So hopefully we'll see a great start. Now, with that, let's see what the AL West is doing. And this is one of the last things we'll do before we wrap up. Thank you, everybody, by the way, for tuning in. Appreciate all you. Appreciate you making Right On Rangers Live a part of your evening. I know there's a lot of other stuff out there, but thanks for joining us to talk baseball and Rangers baseball more specifically. So it's a pretty good day around the AL West. The Mariners did win, but everybody else loses. So it is a really great day to be a Ranger fan. Whenever the Astros lose, I've said this multiple times, when the Astros lose, it's a good day. When the Astros lose and the Rangers win, it is a fantastic day. And when everybody else in the division loses and the Rangers win, it is an absolutely amazing, terrific day. So looks like Astros lose 11-2 tonight to the Royals, who are 8-4. I did not see the Royals starting out the season 8-4. Did not have that on my bingo card, but there they are. Maybe overperforming a little bit, but 8-4 Royals beat the Astros 11-2. There you go. Like to see that. Then we've got, let's see, the Angels losing 4-2 at home to the Rays. Thank you, Tampa. Appreciate it. So the Angels are now a game behind the Rangers in the AL West standings. Angels are 6-6 on the year. Rangers are 7-5. So we hold a 1-game lead in the division, 2.5 over the Mariners, 3 over the A's, 3.5 over the Stros. So hopefully tomorrow, day game, we can get a win. I believe the game is a 1 o'clock Texas time start, 11 a.m. here in Las Vegas. So we'll see what we can do. Probably not going to go live immediately after the game tomorrow, but I'm hopeful that maybe in the afternoon, a little bit later on for me. So, early evening Texas time, I'll hop on for a little bit. And from there, we will talk about everything that happened in the final game of the rubber match of the series between the A's and the Rangers. So that's the plan. Now, beyond that, I don't have anything else. I'll check out some comments here and there. But as I said, appreciate all you guys very much. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back tomorrow and more this weekend to talk more baseball and Rangers baseball. Thank you so much. And as we always say, guys, God bless and go Rangers.